Well folks, I've had a brilliant day today. I'm on the banks of Boddington Reservoir, obviously a famous venue, home to some really nice carp. And I've come here today because I've wanted to try a few things out. First thing I've wanted to try out is a new feeder rod. Second thing I've wanted to try out is some pellets. It's a new range from Dynamite Baits. It's the pinging pellets. Now these pellets are absolutely massive. Twice as big as anything that I use really. You know, I suppose the biggest pellet I use is an 8mm pellet. And these are, as I say, at least twice the size of that. So I've come here today, big expanse of water, big fish, and this is a venue that responds to noise and bait being catapulted over the top and lots of feed going in. So it's the ideal venue for me to try this bait out. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think these pellets are going to catch you lots of fish on smaller enclosed waters, but on a venue like this where distance is key, if I can get my loose feed just that 10-15 metres further than the chaps around me, in a match situation that could be a real advantage, and I think that's what these pellets are going to do. I've been catapulting them out today, and I think the maximum you're going to get is like 45 metres, which I think an 8mm pellet will probably travel 30 metres, so you're getting 15 metres advantage there on people around you, and that's going to be really important when you're fishing a pellet waggle, a bomb, or even just catapulting some pellets over the top of a method feeder. So let me talk to you about the important aspects of bomb and pellet fishing. I like to start when I'm bomb and pellet fishing by feeding quite lightly, quite frugally, but quite frequently. What I'm looking to do is attract fish into the area. So just feeding a single pellet sort of every 30 seconds or a minute, a constant plop on the water's surface, that always brings carp into the area. The really inquisitive carp are, they know what food sounds like, that constant plop on the surface. They're always looking for bait then when they can hear that noise. So they come into the area, and what I like to call that is that's your gathering period. You're gathering those fish into the area. But we're faced with a swim today that's like 6 or 7 foot deep. So after you've gathered quite a few fish, and you'll know you've gathered quite a few fish because you'll start getting indications on your tip, you'll start getting line bites as fish are moving around the swim, we'd want to pin them to the bottom. So instead of feeding really frequently, we're going to increase the amount of pellets that I feed each time in the pouch, but I'm going to feed them less frequently. And what that'll do is there'll be a massive pellets that goes into the swim. Obviously Mr. Carp can't eat those pellets up in the water all in one go, so he's going to be forced to follow them down. And obviously, hopefully he stays down there long enough to pick up your hook bait. That's the plan. Now, when it comes down to end tackling rigs, as like I say, I'm using a new feeder rod today that I'm giving a real good workout. You want something that's sort of like 10-11 foot. We're chucking 30 to 40 metres today, so anything over 11 foot's a bit of an overkill, and anything under 10 foot, you might struggle to reach the distance. So a nice through action 10 or 11 foot feeder rod. The one I'm using today is 10'6". I like to use a robust mainline when I'm catching big fish and I'm using a bomb or a feeder. For obvious reasons, obviously I'm catching big fish, I don't want it to break halfway through a session, and also the slightly thicker line is slightly stiffer, it means you get less tangles. My mainline runs straight down to an inline but elasticated bomb system. It's actually a Preston inline bomb. I've squeezed it tight, actually got a little hammer on it, hammered it tight, and it's got a guru stem running through the centre of it. The reason that I like those guru stems is because the elastic in them doesn't seem to rot or perish, and also it's quite unobtrusive once it's in the water. I also like a fixed rig where allowed, because I like to set the quiver tip really slack. I think that a slack quiver tip just gets you more bites, and obviously I need something for the fish to hook themselves against. A fixed rig ticks all those boxes. The elastic's there, obviously there's a little bit of cushion because I'm using quite a short hook length. The hook length's 12 inches, it's 0.20, and that goes down to a massive hook. It's actually a carp hook, it's a size 10. And you need that big hook because the hook baits we're using is just simply one of those pinging pellets out of the bag, and they're a huge pellet. I can't emphasise enough how big these pellets are. And obviously when you're using a big bait, you need a big hook. Nice and sharp though, so obviously when a fish picks it up, it'll rattle around in the fish's mouth, but it'll soon catch hold, and bites are brilliant today. They've been ripping the rod round. So there's the kit. Let's talk about how my day's gone today. When I'm fishing a bomb and pellet, it's all about loose feed, it's all about pulling those fish into the peg. So what I've done at the start of the session is I've started in pretty classical Boddington style. I've chucked a little method feeder out, and I've chucked that method feeder probably 10 metres past where I plan to loose feed pellets. These pellets will go 45 metres no problems, but what if the wind changes and I struggle to get my loose feed out? So I want to give myself a little bit of leeway. I've ended up fishing today at 35 metres, pinging those pellets at about 35 metres. Obviously you can't be super accurate. I'm looking to hit an area sort of the size of a garage door maybe, and try and pull fish into that area. So 35 metres has been my loose fed line. And what I'm looking to do for the early part of the session is just watch my line, watch my tip, and just see if I can see any line bites of any fish moving over the loose feed. Don't get me wrong, I'm hoping to catch the odd fish on a method feeder as well, but what I'm looking to do is actually look for indications of fish feeding over those pinging pellets. And as it happens, I've caught an odd fish on a method feeder, but quite soon into the session, I've had loads of line bites indicating that those fish are on those loose fed pellets. I've switched over to the bomb rig. I've actually used one of the krill pellets as a target bait, hook bait, and I've used a lasso today to mount the pellets. Obviously, they're so big that a bait band would probably snap when you pull them over the top of those pellets. So I've used a lasso today to mount the pellets. It's quite a neat way of mounting the bait as well. I've chucked over the loose feed, and it's been brilliant. I've had indications most of the day. I've caught some beautiful fish. The bites have been ripping the rod off the rest, and it's been fantastic. So I've learnt quite a few things today. Firstly, that the fish like the pellets, and also that there's a real advantage to getting that little bit further out than those people around you. Obviously, even if you're pleasure fishing, getting that extra distance is bound to give you an advantage over those people who are fishing around you with sort of like 8mm pellets and they can't quite reach the distance. And I think on venues such as here, Boston, Drayton Reservoir, those big expanses of water, these bigger pellets and going that extra distance is going to be a real winner.